Bright QT. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. So let's begin with our first chapter, and the chapter's name is Working of Democracy. Now students, you are already aware of this term, that is democracy. Now in simple terms, we can say that democracy, it shows or it is related to this idea that is to the people, for the people, of the people, for the people and by the people. So basically, the common term here is people. So it means that the power is in the hands of people who can choose their elected representatives, or they can choose their representatives through elections, right? So you're already aware about this term that is democracy. You have also learnt about the features of democracy, right? Why democracy is necessary. So here in this chapter, we are going to talk about the social division that exists in our society, students. Now, when I'm talking about social division, what are we saying here? Here we are talking about division that can be on the basis of gender, that can be again on the basis of religion, and it can be on the basis of caste. Now students, we are living in a society where social division, it plays a very big role in our democratic country, right? So in this chapter, we are going to understand what is the impact of this social division in our democratic country, India. Now, is it good for the democracy or is it bad for the democracy? So under these three parameters, that is gender, religion and caste, we are going to understand how these three parameters and its political expression hampers democracy. Now, is it hampering democracy or is it good for democracy? We are going to find it in this chapter here. Now, we will start with our first topic, that is gender and politics. Now, students, are you aware of this term that is gender? Here, in order to understand the meaning of gender, let's have a look at these pictures. Now, what are you seeing in these pictures? There are three set of pictures here. In first picture, you see that boys, they have trucks. There is a statement given. The next statement says, girls have dolls. Here we see that the statement says, boys invent things, and here the next statement says, girls use what boys invent, right? Now, can you see this difference in the statements here? We are seeing that these statements, they are showing or stereotyping the characteristics for boy and a girl, right? So a boy is supposed to do this thing and a girl is supposed to do this thing. So basic stereotyping, right? And you have already learnt about the stereotypes and differences that exist in the society. Now when we are talking about gender, definitely we are going to talk about the stereotypes that exist in our society pertaining to male and female or boy and girl. Now that shows gender division that exists in our society, right? The third statement, as you can see, boys fix things, girls need things fixed. Now I'm just giving you these set of statements here in order to understand the meaning of gender in social division. Now, if grammatically, when we talk about gender, it is pertaining the characteristics pertaining to distinct between male and female. In simple terms, we understand gender like this, right? But when we are talking about society, when we are talking about the social divisions that exist in our society, the whole meaning of gender changes here. Now, what is the real meaning of gender here, right? So, gender is defined as the socially constructed roles and behaviors that a society typically associates with males and females. Now we are living in a society where we are being judged every day, right? Now, as a result of it, a division is created in our society, right? Now, when we are talking about this division on the basis of gender here, what do we mean by that? Here it means that it is defined as socially constructed roles and behaviors. Now, when we talk about gender in simple terms, we see that basically it shows the biological differences that exist between a male and female, correct? But when we are talking in context of social divisions, what does it mean here? It is the socially constructed roles and behaviors. Quite important to point out here the term that is socially constructed. It means that the roles have been or the behaviors have been constructed by our own society. It is not natural or it is not biological. So the statements that you just read right now, this was socially constructed. That boys are not supposed to cry, girls are supposed to cry. Now boys are supposed to do outside work and girls are supposed to live inside the four walls of the house. Now these are some of the notions that have been created in our society, and that has created a gender division, right? So this has created division in gender between males and females, and that a society typically associates with males and females. So you have understood the term gender here. Now let us try to understand that how this gender and politics is connected in our society, and is this gender division good or bad for our democracy? Now, when we are talking about gender, students, another important term that you have to understand is sexual division of labor. Now here what did we understand? We understood that when we are talking about gender, it means socially constructed roles. Now, when we are talking about socially constructed roles, it means that boys are supposed to do a certain type of work and girls are supposed to do a certain type of work. So, definitely there is division of labor here. But another term that we are seeing here is sexual division of labor. Definitely, we are distinguishing between males and females, right? So, the sexual division of labor that exists in our society, is it good or is it bad? So, let us try to understand the term here, that is sexual labor of division. So, it is a system in which all the work inside the home is either done by women or the family or organized by them through helpers. So what are we seeing? Again, concentrate on the keywords here. That the work inside the home. Inside the home, it always denotes that these works are to be done by females. Understanding the term here, the socially constructed role? So, all the works that are related to inside the home, that is cooking, washing clothes, washing utensils, and so on. All these works are to be done by females or organized by them through their helpers, right? So women do all the works inside home like cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, looking after children, and so on. Men are responsible for working outside the home. So this is the sexual division of labor that we are talking about. Females are responsible for all the works to be done inside the home. Now, when we are talking about men, we see that they are responsible for doing all the work outside the home. But does this mean that women are not doing any work outside the home? No, students. In today's world, when we see in our society, women are definitely performing in all aspects, in all arenas. right? So women are working outside as well as they are working inside the house. But here what are we seeing? That men, they are responsible for working outside the home. Are they responsible for working inside the home? Definitely they have to. Now there are some people who feel that they are responsible for working inside the home, but there are some people who do not feel that when they are talking about patriarchal nature. So these are some of the concepts that we have to understand when we are talking about gender and politics here. Women also work outside home in today's world. Definitely, in your society, you might see that women, they are going when they are going to offices, or whenever we are talking about the rural areas where women are working on the fields. So definitely they are working outside the home. But when we talk about equality between males and females, are we getting that in our society? Do we see that around in our society? Sometimes we are seeing, sometimes we don't see. So definitely that is the gender division that we are talking about here. So in urban areas, poor women, they work as domestic help. Middle class women, they work in offices. They do paid work along with domestic labor. Yes, when we are talking about women, now they are responsible for working outside the home. When we are talking about the urban areas, the women from middle class or high class, they are going to the offices. The women who are belonging to poor class families, they work as domestic help, right? So they are definitely doing work outside home, but the main responsibility again is the domestic labor, the work that they are doing inside the home. So we have to understand this point here. Also students, when we are talking about gender and politics, here we have to take these two terms side by side, because we are talking about working of democracy. Now in democracy, we see that how this division in gender is expressed in politics here. Now when we are talking about gender, it means that we are talking about the role of male and female, right? And when we talk about gender division in politics, it means that we are talking about the role of females and males in political scenario here, right? In politics. So we see that the role of women in politics is minimal. Now taking the example of our own country, how many female prime ministers have you seen? You have heard one name, that is Indira Gandhi, right? But when we talk about chief ministers of different states, we see that in some places that women are leading the role there. But are we seeing women there in majority in different states who are the chief ministers or governors? No students. When we are talking about majority here, we always see that males, they take the control here, right? So definitely when we are talking about our own country, right? So in our own country, the role of women in politics is minimal. Now it has been increasing since the modern times or the post-independence era that we are referring to. It has increased, but it still is not in majority. So you have to understand the difference here that we are referring to. The role of women in politics is still minimal. Earlier, women were not allowed to vote. Now imagine this situation here, students. You are living in a free country, a country where people are being respected, they are being treated as equals, but in reality or in practical sense, we don't see it in our society. Right? It is not that evident when we are talking about the term equality or when we are talking about being respected everywhere. So this is what we are going to understand in this chapter, right? The divisions that we are talking about. So here, when we talk about the role of women in politics, now before independence or even after that, for some time, what did we see? That women, they were not allowed to vote, right? Now imagine this situation now living in this present time here. That what if women were not allowed to vote today? How this society would have been then? So, after fighting and after a lot of agitations and protest for their rights, this made women powerful and they were granted the rights to vote. Now, it was only after a long protest, agitations, and women fighting for their own rights, then they were allowed to vote. Now, there was a society that thought that women are not that important part of this society, and therefore they were not allowed to vote. So, this whole notion that women were not allowed to vote because they were not seen as an important part, this is what that we are seeing today. And that is why we see that role of women in politics is still minimal. Women, they have enhanced the political and legal status and improved their educational and career opportunities. Now, it is only through these protests, these agitations, standing for themselves and fighting for their rights that has enhanced the political and legal status of women in our society. And definitely, it has improved their educational and career opportunities. And that is why in today's day, this modern world, we are seeing women working as housewives, we are seeing women as business entrepreneurs, we are seeing women as chief ministers, scientists, astronauts, and whatnot. Right? It is only because they fought for their rights. So, these are some of the points that you have to keep in mind when we are talking about gender and politics. Now, women, they also have demanded for several other rights, right? So, we are not talking about today's world, students. Post-independence, that is after 1947, it was not that the situation or the condition of women improved in our society. After that also, they had to protest and fight for a lot of things. Now, what were some of the important things that they demanded? So, here are some of the examples, that is equal wage for equal work, improvement in educational and career opportunities, equality in personal and family life, maternity leaves, and so on. So, here are some of the points that you have to keep in mind, that these were some of the major demands of women in our society. Equal wage for equal work. Now, we see that in our society, now even when you will see some of the news talking about celebrities and so on who work in the films, we see that the male celebrity is paid more than the female celebrity. Now, here we see that there is this distinction on equal wages here, right? So, women are not paid more, but male celebrity are paid more. Now, why is that, student? So, this notion that has been created in our society, it leads to these distinctions. So, they are fighting for equal wages for equal work. So, if male and female, both of them are doing equal work, so therefore they should be paid accordingly, right? Improvement in educational and career opportunities. Even today, students, when we are talking about the rural areas, what are we seeing? That many women or many girl child, they are not supposed to study, right? Boys are being seen as an asset for their family, but women or girls, they are not allowed to study. So therefore, many women, they are now self-aware and now they are fighting for their educational rights. They want to have good career opportunities. Apart from that, equality and in personal and family life. And definitely, we also hear of domestic violence in our society, right? In rural areas or even in urban areas, domestic violence is quite frequent in our society. Therefore, these women, they demand for equality in their personal and family life. Also, maternity leaves. Now, if a woman, she is going to give birth to her child, definitely she can't go out and work in her office, right? So, therefore, they demanded for maternity leaves that has been granted in by our government, right? So, several acts have been passed, and it is only after the regular agitation and protest by these women in our society. Now, these movements are known as the feminist movements. Now, you are again seeing this new term here, that is feminists. Now, feminists are the people who believe in equal rights or fighting for the rights of women, of female, right? So, all these protests and the movements taking place and in the name of women, fighting for the rights of women, we refer these movements as feminist movements. And in our society, even today, when you will see news, you will find that a lot of women are still protesting in different parts of the world for their own rights. So these movements are referred as the feminist movements. So what are we seeing in this topic here? We are understanding that this gender division, the term that we have learnt right now, so when they are expressed in politics, definitely it is good. Why, students? Because women, they are fighting for their rights. They want to improve their status in the society. They want to improve their career opportunities and they are demanding for equality. So definitely this gender division and the fight for it that we are talking about here, definitely it has to be done in our society. It is good for our politics, right? Because women, they cannot be subjugated in our society. Okay, so this is the first part here. Coming to our exercise section, in multiple choice question, there is a question and this question says, what is meant by gender division? The options are division between rich and poor, division between males and females, division between educated and uneducated, and the last option is none of the above. Now, what have we learned right now? Two terms that I have been repeating again and again is this distinction between male and female. So the answer here is crystal clear. Correct answer would be option B, that is division between males and females.